Time. Time is probably life's most valuable commodity, because it's the only commodity you can never get more of. Mr. Bolitho Blane has run out of time. Let us return to Detective Officer Kettering's third report. From the foregoing statements, it is obvious that, as we have a note in Blane's own hand, the chicken scratch, scribbled on the back of the leaf torn from Stoddart's pocketbook with the share quotations on it, which was sent down to him at 7:45, he must still have been alive at that time. Yeah, if you remember what I've mentioned before, that's my current theory too. In fact, I think we can narrow it down a little bit more, but we'll see. Back to Kettering's words. The steward, Ringbottom, entered his cabin, by his cabin he means Blane's, at 8:30 and discovered him to be missing. Therefore, Bolitho Blane must have been murdered between 7:45 and 8:30. The situation of the cabin steward's pantry, and Ringbottom's statement, backed by that of the carpenter Jinx, rules out the possibility of the crime having been committed by any member of the crew, and we must, therefore, assume that the guilty party is either Carlton Rocksavage or one of his guests. Catch up with us, Officer Kettering, because we're already ahead of you, bitch. After I had questioned Count Posadini, Detective Officer Neem told me that if... Neem, can you ever get the times right with the 7:15 or 7:05? You're busting my balls, son. Detective Officer Neem told me that he felt certain that this man's face was familiar to him. Neem has seen Posadini before? And Neem said that we had him on our criminal records. Neem is sure Posadini is a criminal? Is that mustache fake? Is he really not Italian? Every effort should, therefore, be made to obtain full particulars regarding him at once. Having taken statements from all of the guests, and the only members of the crew who might possibly have been concerned in the affair, I proceeded to analyze their statements with a view to seeing how far they vouched for each other. At a limited time in each case, when they were on their own, during the period of 7:45 to 8:30, during which the murder must have been committed. Now, I still think there's a strong chance, at least if it was a loud murder weapon, that it happened sometime between 8 and 8:05, give a minute here or there, due to the fact that Ringbottom left his pantry then. But it could be a longer time period. I do agree with this. I've said it before. That is the longest possibility, 7:45 to 8:30. What we need to do now is let's reconstruct, in the quickest way possible, what we know. Because we know that the people we've interviewed have all told the truth about one thing: when they were in the lounge and when they left, because the steward, Jack Kane or whatever his name, Raising Kane, confirmed that. So let's make a timeline and figure out who was there and when, to see who could have been available in the window when Blane was most likely murdered. I believe these times to be accurate. I can't guarantee it though, as I am fallible and I wrote it all down by hand. So we'll start at 7:45, the earliest possible time the murder maybe could have been committed. At that time, Carlton Rocksavage, Pamela Jocelyn, Nicholas Stoddart, and Count Posadini are all hanging out in the lounge together. This doesn't last super long though, because at 7:50, Pamela and Count Posadini both leave the lounge to go down to their rooms, leaving Rocksavage and Stoddart together. They don't have to wait terribly long, about 10 minutes before they get a new person to hang out with them. That's about 8 p.m. The Bishop of Bude shows up, and a little bit after that, I'm not sure exactly when. I don't remember if they said. I think they just said a little after. Maybe they said the exact same time. We'll go at 8:05. That's with a question mark, but it is a little after 8. Lady Welter shows up until 8:10, because at 8:10, Carlton Rocksavage says, I need to go below and put on some fancy clothes for dinner. And he leaves them, leaving only Stoddart, Bishop, and Lady Welter together. Another 5 minutes later, lounges happen. Mr. Hayashi joins Stoddart, Lady Welter, and the Bishop of Bude. So they have maybe about 10 minutes to enjoy each other's time before Count Posadini returns at 8:25, and we're getting close to the end of the murder window, which is 8:30. At about 8:30 proper, the Jocelyn's both return together. At this point in time, Blane is almost assuredly dead because the Ringbottom, one of the stewards, is down there in his room looking for him and can't find the body. He can't find anything. After this, I don't know if it matters much. Rock Savage shows up for a bit, then he gets called down, and then later on Ferry Rock Savage shows up. But if we go back to 8:30, I noticed two things you may have noticed. Number one, Ferry Rock Savage is not in the lounge at any point during this time. Supposedly, she's in her room this whole time. We have no confirmation. Remember, all these lounge people, we know they were here because the lounge steward can back it up. The other thing, Nicholas Stoddart has been in the lounge for the entire time, from 7:45 past 8:30 until they go to dinner, which means Stoddart could not have killed him in that window, at least not without an accomplice or something. Because you gotta remember, and I'm half talking to myself, that not only was Blane dead, but they didn't find a body, so it wasn't like someone could have poisoned him and hoped he threw himself out the window. Oh, please be a good lad and throw your poisoned ass out the window. Don't be a problem. So Stoddart right now looks like he couldn't possibly have done it. Everybody else is here or gone for periods of time. And if I want to get really anal, and once again, this is me jumping, what we just looked at are the things you can count on. If we look at the window that I think maybe happened, that we need more evidence, the 8 to 8:05 window, from 8 to 8:05, Rock Savage, Stoddart, and the Bishop of Bude are all in the room, the lounge. So if the murder did happen in that 5-minute window, give or take a minute, then we have 3 people who are not suspects. But right now, I'm just going to mark Stoddart off the list. Moving on. Oh, I don't want to do this. I have a list of the things that were found in Blane's cabin. A few of these things we've already seen looking at the pictures. I'm not going to read over all of them. I will try and leave them on screen a second in case you want to pause and do your own sleuthing. There is one thing I find rather interesting, though, and I don't know if this is a clue in the game or if it's just a game design choice. If we look in the large leather fitted dressing case, one of the items we find is a .22 caliber Scott Webley automatic pistol and 25 bullets for the same. The bullets aren't the big deal. The interesting thing is the Scott Webley .22. Now, the other thing that's also in this case is No Ordinary Virgin, the book by Eve Chaucer. So we know it's referencing the picture we've already seen. But in that picture, that gun is clearly, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something, that is clearly a Colt 1911. I don't believe Scott Webley ever made Colt 1911s. Plus, a 1911 at that time, you would assume would be .45 caliber. I guess it wouldn't have to be, but that's kind of what you get used to. I do know that Colt at that time, remember the murder happened in 36, so the gun would have been made prior to 36. Then in the early 20th century, Colt did license the right to make 1911 style guns to some European countries. Companies. I know one in Norway made one. I don't think Scott and Webley ever did, or Webley and Scott. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody could look it up and find it. I tried to do some research. I couldn't find any. So what I think, and I could be wrong, that could be a clue about the murder. What I think is, in real life when they made this game in the 1930s, because of the gun laws in the United Kingdom, they probably couldn't get their hands on a real pistol, and either this picture was taken somewhere else, like in America, or maybe somebody had a pistol they shouldn't have had, like maybe from the war, like an American pistol. And so I assume what's listed on the reference document, the Webley .22, is supposed to be that gun. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and somebody will find some arcane gun that actually was made by Scott and Webley in that design that's a .22. I think the reason it's a .22 and not a .45 is the developers probably want there to be a little quieter of a gunshot. Not like a .22 is going to be super quiet inside, but it'd be ideally maybe a little quieter. And so that's the thing I'm anal about, and that might just me being anal about guns and the developers doing the best they can. So for the moment, I'm going to assume they mean that to be a .22 by Scott and Webley and Scott. And I don't even know if Wheatley and Scott made 22s then. Maybe they did. The stuff I looked up then that was military stuff was like 38s. But they probably made 22s at some point. And then if we move to the last list of his shit, Blane's personal belongings already unpacked. The last one is a postcard addressed only Bolitho Blane Esquire, found in the right-hand top dressing table drawer. So he'd taken it out to look at. According to Detective Officer Kettering, the last item on the inventory is of considerable interest as it comes from the Japanese man Inosuke Hayashi. It is on a yacht postcard and therefore written after Hayashi's arrival on board. Presumably, it was delivered to Blane sometime between his arrival on the yacht at 7, I think that's 05, I don't know, and his death, which is known to have occurred between 7:45 and 8:30. Postcard herewith. Well, this is the world's most boring postcard. I'd hoped it was going to have like a ship or something on it. Alright. From Mr. Hayashi. Aboard the Golden Gull's like stationary. Dear Mr. Blane. Now becomes the true detective work. Not knowing what year a gun was made, but trying to figure out people's cursive. Needless to say, I was very shocked to receive your letter while I was in New York. You have certainly overlooked some considerations which are, from your point of view, extremely important, and quite apart from my own interests in this matter, I consider it highly desirable that you should know the consequences to you of the action you contemplate before conferring with Mr. Rock Savage. I shall be in my room until 8 o'clock. Wait, so Hayashi purposely was waiting in his room to have a secret rendezvous with Mr. Blane? But if we look at the blueprints, the easiest way for Blane to get to Hayashi would have been to walk right down the hallway through which the steward could have seen him, and he would have had to walk right by Jenks the carpenter. And neither of them saw him. But, I mean, of course, the steward was gone from 8 to 8:05, but Jenks wasn't. Jenks was there the whole time, and he didn't mention seeing Blane walk by to Hayashi's. I shall be here in my room until 8 o'clock, but would prefer to discuss this matter in your room. Please, therefore, let me know at what other time I may meet you. Yours truly, Inosuke Hayashi. We don't know if Hayashi went to the room or not, but he wanted to. What would be nice is if we could find a letter seeing if Blane responded to him, or a note. We return to Officer Kettering's third report. With the assistance of Detective Officer Neem, who can't tell time, I then searched all the cabins of all the parties concerned. As the parties had slept in them on the previous night, they had ample opportunity to destroy any incriminating evidence. Not only that, but on the way back to port, they could have chucked something out the window. Besides Mr. Blane's body. However, as Blane's death was assumed to be suicide until early this morning, none of the innocent parties is likely to have taken any special precautions, and, as in a case such as this, nearly everybody has some private peccadillo? Peccadillo? I don't know that word. Let's look it up. A small, relatively unimportant offense or sin. From now on, that's everything. Anytime I fuck something up, oh, don't mind me, it's just my peccadillo. Put that away, sir. That's disgusting. What was I doing? Oh, has some private peccadillo to conceal. I was in hopes that we might still unearth some useful information, which would eventually lead us to the murderer. On my instructions to the captain, the whole party were informed. Immediately, each of them left their cabins this morning. That they were not to return to them until they received permission. Ha ha ha! I can go through all their shit now. None of the cabins had, therefore, been cleaned or tidied, and each was locked after its occupant had gone up to breakfast. 2 people did breakfast in their rooms, though. I think Lady Welter, and was it the Bishop or the Count? I forget the other one. The contents of the waste paper baskets in each cabin, which had not been cleared since the previous morning, were removed, and as a matter of routine, the contents are being cataloged. Neem, go through the trash. I don't want to touch it. The search revealed items of interest in 2 cases only. Count Posadini. Among the Count's belongings were found 8 packs of specially prepared cards. He's a card shark? He's a cheater and a thief? 2 sets of loaded dice, he is! and an automatic Mauser 22 pistol with a silencer attached. 1 spare clip and 44 rounds of ammunition. Is that why no one heard the gun go off? Now, technically, a gun with a silencer still makes a noise. It's not as quiet as in the movies, but maybe that's why the only one that could have heard would have been the steward, but he was gone? That would explain why the carpenter maybe didn't hear it. Back to the officer's report. It will be recalled that upon the Count's examination by me this morning, Detective Officer Neem remarked that he felt certain this man's face was familiar to him, and that we have him on our records. The items above mentioned, having been discovered in his possession, give considerable color to Detective Officer Neem's suggestion, and every effort should be made to trace up particulars of this man at once. I would be surprised, though, maybe not. If he murdered Blane, why did he keep his gun with him? Maybe he was just dumb, a lot of criminals are. The other thing that was found apparently has to do with the Bishop of Bude. In a square, black, portable writing case belonging to the bishop, I found a letter, which was evidently written and dispatched by Bolitho Blane from New York and received by the bishop in the post delivered to the yacht on her arrival off Miami yesterday. Letter herewith. The bishop didn't mention that. He just said he hadn't seen Bolitho Blane in a long time. He didn't mention any correspondence. All right, so here's the letter that was written by Bolitho Blane to the bishop that was found, I think, in the bishop's wastebasket. How did I already forget what it was? It was written on the 5th of March, 1936. I believe that is 3 days before the murder was committed, at the Hotel Eldon Claridge. Yeah, and this looks like Bolitho Blane's writing, his horrible chicken scratch. Let's see if I can decipher it. My dear Bishop, I have only just learned that you are to make one of the party which Carlton Rock Savage is assembling on his yacht for, I don't know what that word is. Giant, I don't think so, holiday, some kind of holiday. Cummy this in the lunch? Cummy in the lunch? Don't eat the lunch, everyone! No one eat the lunch, it's poison! I'm pretty sure that's not what he wrote. Among... Among in the launch? I don't know. It is, like, see, how is anyone going to decipher this? How is anyone going to know this is the word is? It's a dot over a little curve. It is, of course, many years since we've met, but I shall look forward so much to renewing my acquaintance with you. You will, I am sure, recall these wonderfully interesting animations, onus axum, which we held when we were together for a little time during the war. So I don't know what the world that was they animated together. There's something they did together that Bolitho Blane warmly remembers of hanging out with the bishop. We established then a wonderful, and I we established then a wonderful, and I feel, never to be forgotten friendship. It sounds like Bolitho Blane is going to ask for money. I have an idea that some very strange and unnatural things are likely to take place upon Rock Savage's yacht once we put out to sea, and however strange these... What is that word? Varum? I wish Stoddart didn't have an alibi for the time of the murder, because maybe Stoddart got sick of trying to decipher this chicken scratch and killed him. Maybe it was me. Maybe after this I got in a time machine and killed Bolitho Blane to make sure no one else had to deal with this awful chicken scratch. That's been the worst part of the mystery. However strange these things may be, I feel sure that you will bear in mind what very good friends we are. It's almost like Blane is like, there's some weird shit gonna happen, man. Just be cool. And I don't know if it's because Blane is insane, or if Blane had something planned. I value your friendship more than I can say, and from your past expressions of esteem, it makes me happy to think that you value mine equally highly. You're my sincerely? What? You're my... I don't know what that is. Something sincerely, or... You wouldn't write, "You're my servant." You might say, "I'm your servant, Bolitho Blane." Or just something sincerely, very sincerely. "I'm very sincerely," whatever. Enough of his writing. What we see is that Bolitho Blane is confirming that they're friends. Interesting. And of course his premonition that something bad was going to happen on the yacht. You know, the fact that Blane was so worried something bad was going to happen here either makes it seem like he was setting something up, or it just makes it more sad that he was so desperate financially to save his company that he put himself in harm's way. Moving on, as we continue Detective Officer Kettering's third report. I then examined the ship's officers, Dr. Auckland, Mr. Rock Savage's personal physician, who messes with the officers. And I assume he means eat with them, not like fucking around. "Hey, what's up, buddy? Quit hitting me! I'm a doctor, I can do whatever I want!" "Doctor, heal thyself with a slap!" Who messes with the officers and all members of the crew. I am satisfied none of them could have had any connection with the crime, and take it you will not require detailed reasons for my conclusions. I assume this report is for Kettering's boss, as my examinations and listing of Blane's effects had occupied me all morning, and a thorough search of the cabins of all parties some 6 hours, being completed a little after 8 o'clock. Aren't these guys going to be mad? These suspects, aren't they going to be like, "I want to go home"? "No, you're staying on the ship until I've discovered the murderer." I decided to postpone any further examination of the parties until tomorrow morning, by which time it is to be hoped that further information about them from the outside would be to hand. That's right, boss. Can you get me anything on Posadini? Signed, Kerp Kettering, whatever his first name is, Detective Officer, Florida Police, 8:25 p.m. on the 9th of March, 1936, aboard the Golden Gull. All of this really brings me back to one question that's old and one that's kind of new. We know there have been 2 guns on board, because we've discovered that Posadini had one. What was the murder weapon? Also, Count Posadini appears to be a fraud. Who is he really?